Julian Markham had everything a boy could dream of. His bedroom was bigger than most people's homes. He had 7 video game systems, a closet full of designer clothes, and a personal driver who took him anywhere he wanted. His family's mansion sat on a hill in Los Angeles, with gates so tall you needed to look up twice to see the top. But here's the strange thing about Julian. He felt empty inside. Every morning, he woke up in silk sheets. Every breakfast was served by someone else. Every friend he had came from the same rich neighborhood, wore the same expensive watches, and talked about the same boring things. Yachts, vacation houses, and which college had the best reputation. Julian, darling, his mother would say, adjusting her pearl necklace, remember, you must marry someone of quality, someone who fits our world. Julian nodded, but he didn't really know what that meant. Quality? What did that even look like? By the time Julian turned 25, he had dated plenty of girls, models, actresses, daughters of business owners. They were all beautiful, polished, and perfect on paper. But when he talked to them, he felt nothing. It was like talking to pretty statues. Dude, what's wrong with you? His best friend Marcus asked one day. You've got everything. Why do you always look so sad? Julian shrugged. I don't know, man. Something's missing. Then came the night that changed everything. Julian's mother was hosting a charity event at their mansion. Rich people love charity events. It made them feel good while they sipped expensive wine and ate tiny fancy foods. This event was for kids who didn't have much money, and the cause was education. Julian didn't want to go. He found these events fake and tiring. But his mother insisted, so he put on his best suit and walked downstairs. The mansion was packed with people in glittering dresses and sharp tuxedos. Julian grabbed a glass of juice and stood near the corner, trying to become invisible. That's when he heard it. A laugh. Not a fake, polite laugh like everyone else's. This laugh was real, loud, and full of pure joy. It cut through all the boring chatter, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Julian turned his head and saw her. She was a black woman with a big, beautiful smile. Her body was curvy and soft, and she wore a simple purple dress that didn't try to be fancy. She was kneeling down, talking to 3 small children who had been brought to the event. The kids were giggling and holding her hands, completely enchanted. And then the elephant said, "That's not my trunk, that's my brother," she said, making silly voices. The children exploded into laughter. Julian couldn't stop staring. There was something magnetic about her, something warm, something real. Who is that? Julian asked the waiter passing by. Oh, that's Miss Robinson. Danielle Robinson. She's a kindergarten teacher from East L.A. She works with a charity we're supporting tonight. East L.A. That was the opposite side of the city from Julian's world. It was a place his parents never talked about, a place people like him never visited. Julian watched Danielle for another 10 minutes. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't checking her phone or looking around to see who was important. She was just fully, completely present with those kids. Then one of the children spilled juice on her dress. Julian expected her to gasp or get upset. Instead, Danielle laughed even harder. Oh no, I've been attacked by the juice monster, she said playfully, making the child giggle instead of cry. Julian felt something strange in his chest. A flutter, a pull. It was like gravity, but different. Before he knew what he was doing, Julian walked over. Hi, he said awkwardly. I'm Julian. Danielle looked up, still smiling. Her eyes were kind and curious. Hi, Julian. I'm Danielle. Want to help me clean up this juice disaster? Most women Julian knew would have said something flirty or acted impressed by his fancy suit. But Danielle just handed him napkins and got back to comforting the child. They worked together in silence for a moment. Then Julian said, You're really good with kids. Thanks. They're my favorite people in the world. Danielle said brightly, Kids don't pretend. They're honest and brave and full of dreams. What's not to love? Julian thought about that. When was the last time he'd been around someone honest? Do you work with kids? Danielle asked, dabbing at her dress. No, Julian admitted. I work at my father's company. Real estate investing. That sounds fancy, Danielle said without judgment. Do you like it? No one had ever asked Julian that. They always said, that sounds impressive, or you must make so much money. Honestly, I don't know if I do, Julian said quietly. Danielle studied him with gentle eyes. Then maybe you should find out what you do like. That simple sentence hit Julian like a thunderbolt. Find out what you like. When had he ever done that? They talked for another hour. Danielle told him about her students. Kids who came to school hungry, kids who didn't have books at home, kids who struggled to read but tried so hard it broke your heart. She talked about how she bought school supplies with her own money, how she stayed late to tutor struggling students, how she believed every single child deserved a chance. Julian had never met anyone like her. She wasn't trying to climb any ladder. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just genuinely cared about making life better for kids who needed help. Can I see you again? Julian blurted out before he could stop himself. Danielle tilted her head, surprised. Really? You want to hang out with a kindergarten teacher from East L.A.? Yes, Julian said firmly. I really do. Danielle smiled, and it felt like sunshine. Okay, let's get coffee sometime. As Julian walked back to his corner of the party, his heart was racing. His mother caught his eye from across the room and raised an eyebrow, clearly wondering who he'd been talking to. Julian didn't care. For the first time in his entire life, he felt awake. Something real had just walked into his golden cage, and Julian wasn't going to let it go. Over the next 6 months, Julian and Danielle met every week. Coffee shops, park benches, the library near her school. Each time they talked, Julian felt more alive, more himself. Danielle showed him a world he never knew existed. She took him to her classroom one Saturday, where colorful drawings covered the walls and tiny chairs sat in circles. She introduced him to her students' artwork, explaining each child's story with such love that Julian's throat got tight. This is Maya's drawing, Danielle said, pointing to a picture of a house with a crooked door. She's learning English as her second language. 6 months ago, she couldn't write her name. Now look at this. She wrote, "My home," all by herself. Julian stared at the simple drawing. In his world, people brag about million-dollar deals. But this tiny victory felt bigger than any business deal his father ever made. You really love them, don't you? Julian whispered. With my whole heart, Danielle said simply. That's when Julian knew. He was in love with her. Not just liked her. Not just enjoyed her company. He was deeply, completely, forever in love with Danielle Robinson. But there was a problem. A big one. When Julian brought Danielle to meet his parents, the room went cold. His mother's smile was frozen and fake. His father barely shook Danielle's hand. They asked polite questions, but their voices were stiff, like robots pretending to be human. After Danielle left, his mother exploded. "Julian, what are you thinking?" she hissed. "That woman is not suitable for you. She's a teacher from East L.A. She's what, mother?" Julian said, his voice sharp. "Say it." His mother looked away. "She's not our kind of people." Julian felt anger burn in his chest. "You mean she's not rich? You mean she's black? You mean she's not skinny like the models you wanted to marry?" "Don't put words in my mouth," his father said coldly. "We want what's best for you. That woman will drag you down. People will laugh at you. Is that what you want?" "I want to be happy," Julian shouted. "For the first time in my life, I'm actually happy. Doesn't that matter?" His parents didn't answer. They just stared at him like he'd gone crazy. But Julian didn't care anymore. 3 weeks later, on a warm evening in the park where they'd had their first coffee date, Julian got down on one knee. "Danielle Robinson," he said, his voice shaking, "you've shown me what real life looks like. You've taught me what actually matters. Will you marry me?" Danielle's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure? Your family." "I'm sure," Julian said firmly. "I've never been more sure of anything." "Then yes," Danielle whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The engagement news spread like wildfire. Julian's rich friends couldn't believe it. At parties, people whispered and giggled behind their hands. "Did you hear? Julian Markham is marrying a fat black teacher. Is he having a breakdown? Give it 6 months. He'll come to his senses. Even Marcus pulled Julian aside. Bro, are you sure about this? I mean, she seems nice, but she's not exactly. Not exactly what? Julian interrupted, his voice ice cold. Marcus shuffled his feet. You know what I mean, man. No, I don't. Explain it to me. Marcus couldn't. He just walked away, shaking his head. The wedding day arrived. It was small and simple. Nothing like the giant fancy wedding Julian's mother had always planned for him. They got married in Danielle's church in East L.A., surrounded by her students, their families, and the community that loved her. Julian's parents came, but they sat in the back row with sour faces. Some of Julian's old friends showed up just to see the spectacle. Julian could hear them snickering during the ceremony. But when Julian looked at Danielle in her white dress, her face glowing with joy, nothing else mattered. I love you, he whispered as they held hands. I love you too, she whispered back. After the wedding, Julian made a decision that shocked everyone. He told his parents he was leaving the family business. He and Danielle moved out of the fancy neighborhood into a small house near her school, a simple 3-bedroom home with a tiny yard and peeling paint. Are you insane? His mother cried when she found out. You're throwing away everything. No, Mom, Julian said calmly. I'm finding everything. Julian started volunteering at Danielle's school. He read to kids. He helped fix broken playground equipment. He used his money, his own money that he'd saved, to buy books, art supplies, and winter coats for students who needed them. At first, he felt awkward. The kids stared at him like he was an alien. But Danielle taught him how to talk to them, how to listen, how to see them as real people with real dreams. One day, a little girl named Rosa came to Danielle crying. I can't read. I'm too stupid. Julian watched as Danielle knelt down, wiped Rosa's tears, and said gently, You're not stupid. Your brain just learns differently. And guess what? That makes you special. We're going to figure this out together. For weeks, Danielle worked with Rosa every day after school. She tried different teaching methods. She used color cards, songs, and games. Julian helped however he could, making flashcards, printing worksheets, cheering Rosa on. Then one afternoon, Rosa picked up a book and read an entire sentence out loud. The cat sat on the mat. Rosa shouted, her eyes wide with shock. Danielle burst into tears. Julian felt his own eyes getting wet. Rosa had done it. She'd broken through. Rosa's mother came to pick her up and saw her daughter reading. The mother started crying too. Thank you, she said to Danielle and Julian. Thank you for not giving up on her. That night, lying in their small bed in their small house, Julian held Danielle close. Do you ever regret marrying me? He asked quietly. Do you wish I'd been stronger against all those people laughing at us? Danielle turned to face him. Julian, those people laughing? They're just noise. What we're doing here, changing kids' lives, that's real. That's what matters. But Julian still felt the weight of doubt sometimes. His old friends had stopped calling. His parents barely spoke to him. People in his old neighborhood whispered when they saw him. Was he crazy? Had he thrown away everything for nothing? Then he thought of Rosa's face when she read that sentence. He thought of the other kids who hugged him every morning. He thought of Danielle's smile when she saw him helping a struggling student. No, this wasn't nothing. This was everything. Julian fell asleep that night with a small smile on his face, Danielle's hand in his. The world might be laughing at them now, but something was changing, something big, and soon everyone would see it. 2 years passed. 2 years of hard work, late nights, and small miracles. Julian and Danielle didn't just help kids at her school anymore. They had a bigger dream. A dream that started with a simple conversation over breakfast one Saturday morning. What if we had a place, Danielle said, spreading jam on her toast, where families could come for help? A place with tutors, books, food, and people who actually care. Julian looked up from his coffee. Like a community center? Exactly. Danielle's eyes sparkled. A place where kids like Rosa could get extra help, where parents could learn how to support their children, where nobody gets turned away because they don't have money. Julian smiled. Let's do it. Just like that. Danielle laughed. Do you know how much that would cost? I have money saved, Julian said, and I can fundraise. I can talk to people who actually care about helping, not just showing off at fancy parties. So they got to work. Julian sold his expensive car and bought a regular one. He sold his fancy watches and designer clothes. He reached out to old contacts, not the snobby ones, but the few good people he'd met in business who had kind hearts. Slowly, donations came in. A local church gave them space in an old building. Teachers volunteered their time. Parents from the community helped paint walls and build shelves. 6 months later, the Markham Robinson Community Center opened its doors. It wasn't fancy. The floors were old. The furniture was donated, but was filled with love, books, learning games, and most importantly, hope. Kids came after school for tutoring. Parents came for classes on reading and math, so they could help their children. Families came for free meals on weekends. Counselors helped kids with special learning needs. Just like Rosa, word spread fast, not just in East LA, but across the whole city. A local news station heard about the center and sent a reporter. The reporter interviewed Danielle, Julian, and several families whose lives had been changed. This place saved my son, one mother said, tears streaming down her face. He was falling behind in school. Now he's reading at grade level. All because Miss Danielle and Mr. Julian believed in him. The news story aired on a Tuesday evening. Julian's phone started buzzing immediately. Text messages, emails, phone calls. Some were from people wanting to donate. Some were from other communities asking how to start similar centers. But some messages came from people Julian never expected to hear from again. Marcus, his old best friend, texted, "Bro, I saw the news. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Other old friends reached out with similar messages. "We judged you. We were idiots. What you're doing is amazing." But the most shocking call came on Thursday afternoon. Julian, it was his mother's voice. She sounded different, softer. "Can your father and I come visit the center?" Julian's hand trembled. "Really? Really?" His mother said quietly. "We'd like to see what you built." That Saturday, Julian's parents drove to East LA for the first time in their lives. They parked their expensive car on the street and walked into the community center. Julian watched their faces as they looked around. His father stared at the walls covered with children's artwork. His mother watched Danielle, working with a group of kids, teaching them to sound out words. A little boy ran up to Julian and hugged his legs. "Mr. Julian, look, I got an A on my spelling test." Julian picked him up and spun him around. "That's amazing, David. I'm so proud of you." His mother watched this interaction with wide eyes. She'd never seen her son like this. So warm, so present, so genuinely happy. After the tour, they sat in Julian's tiny office. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, his father cleared his throat. "Son, I owe you an apology." Julian looked up, shocked. "We were wrong," his father continued, his voice thick with emotion. "We thought success meant money and status and impressing the right people. But watching you today, seeing those kids light up when they see you, seeing the lives you're changing." He paused. "That's real success. That's what actually matters." Julian's mother reached out and took his hand. "And Danielle, she's remarkable. We were blind. We judged her based on things that don't matter at all. She's the best thing that ever happened to you." Tears streamed down Julian's face. "Do you really mean that?" "Every word," his mother whispered. "Can you forgive us?" Julian hugged both his parents. For the first time in years, his family felt whole. His parents didn't just apologize. They started helping. His father donated a large sum to expand the center. His mother began volunteering, reading to children every Tuesday afternoon. The people who had laughed at Julian's wedding, they heard about the center. They saw the news stories. They saw the community transformed. Slowly, some of them reached out with apologies. Others stayed silent, ashamed of their cruelty. But Julian and Danielle, didn't focus on the past. They focused on the future. 3 years after their wedding, the center had helped over 500 kids. Students who'd been struggling were now thriving. Families who'd felt hopeless now had support. The whole community was stronger. One evening, Julian and Danielle stood outside the center, watching children play on the new playground they'd built. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. "I'm so glad I chose you," Julian whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Danielle squeezed his hand. "I'm glad you did too. Do you remember when everyone laughed at us?" Julian asked. "Of course," Danielle said, "but their laughter doesn't matter. What matters is this." She pointed at the children playing, their laughter filling the air. "What matters is love. Real love, the kind that changes lives." Julian pulled her close. "You know what's funny? I thought I had everything before I met you. Money, status, a big house. But I had nothing. I was empty inside. And now," Danielle asked softly, "now I have everything that actually matters," Julian said. "A purpose, a community, you, and the knowledge that we're making the world a little bit better." A little girl named Maya, the same Maya whose drawing Danielle had shown Julian years ago, ran up to them. She was older now, in 3rd grade, and reading perfectly. "Miss Danielle, Mr. Julian, look what I wrote." She held up a story she'd written about a princess who helped people in her kingdom. "It's beautiful, Maya," Danielle said, kneeling down to hug her. "You inspired me," Maya said simply. "You showed me that helping people is the best thing you can do." After Maya ran back to play, Julian looked at Danielle with wonder. "Did you hear that? We inspired her." "That's how love works," Danielle said. "It spreads, one person to another, one life to another, like ripples in water." Julian thought about all the people who'd said he was crazy, all the friends who'd abandoned him, all the whispers and laughter at his wedding. None of it mattered now, because love, real, genuine, selfless love, had won. The people who'd laughed learned an important lesson. You can't judge a person by how they look, where they come from, or how much money they have. You judge them by their heart, by their actions, by the love they give to the world. Julian and Danielle proved that the most beautiful love stories aren't about perfection. They're about two people choosing each other, choosing purpose over status, and choosing to make the world better together. As the stars began to appear in the sky, Julian kissed Danielle's forehead. "Thank you for seeing me. The real me. Thank you for letting me," Danielle whispered back. And in that moment, surrounded by the sounds of children's laughter and the warmth of community love, Julian Markham knew he was the richest man in the world, not because of money, but because he'd found something money could never buy, a life filled with purpose, love, and genuine joy. Everyone had laughed when the rich young man married the curvy black teacher from East L.A. But now everyone wished they could have what Julian and Danielle had: true love, real purpose, and a happiness that no amount of money could ever purchase. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories about love, courage, and the power of choosing what truly matters.